Welcome to the webinar. Thank you everybody for joining. Again, my name is Kurt Thoennessen. I'm the founder and CEO of RiskRevu, and I am also an agent. Just a quick word about the name RiskRevu, because I think it's important. I named it RiskRevu because there is a lot of risk management and thought, philosophy and thought that goes into building these forms. And so I want everybody to understand that behind all the development of this product is that philosophy of wanting to protect the client and have that better protection. So that's kind of where the name RiskRevu came from. So today's call, we're going to talk about the efficiency that digital forms can bring to an agency's operations. We're going to go through as many of our new policy forms as possible, so I can share with you their intended uses and show you some of the questions that are within them. And then I'm going to talk about at the end some ideas related to marketing campaigns and cross-selling using digital forms and using RiskRevu's forms, and how that can really simplify that whole process. So let's dive in. And the first thing I want to do is just do a quick overview. For those of you who are, this is the first time on the call, I want to do a quick overview of the platform just so you see how it looks and how it operates. So I am going to share my screen. So you can see that. So this is our dashboard. So when a user logs into their account, they will see this screen. And from here, they can navigate around the website. Typically, there is an administrator. The person who initially signs up for a RiskRevu account would be the administrator, and then they would have sub-users underneath them, which are all the other agency users. The administrator would see this screen. Okay, so let's go through. This is the dashboard. From here, a user can edit their profile. They're going to My Account, Edit Profile. This is where they would add their contact information, a headshot, their logo, a bio, and this is where they select the forms that they want to show up on their personal profile. So we have three types of forms: risk evaluations, which are meant to get updated risk information about an existing client. So similar to renewal questionnaires, but they can really be used at any time. The second type of form that we'll be going over today is new policy forms, new policy options. These are otherwise known as intake forms that are used for new lines of business. And the third type of forms is our service policy forms. And these forms are designed around individual service processes that involve data gathering from a third party. And so we're trying to streamline those services using digital forms as well. So once you select the forms, and let me just show you how to do that. You see these slider buttons here. You can turn them on and off. So that just turned it off. And then you just click it again to turn it on. And then once you turn it on, and we save the profile, it'll show up on your platform. Quick note about this: activate Zapier webhooks. This is a bit of an advanced feature. You can turn this on and off again with the sliders. And Zapier is a third-party API software vendor. And we have an integration with them where our data can be sent seamlessly to over 1,500 other applications to create automations and other cool stuff. And we'll be doing a webinar on that shortly. So once you select the forms, you hit Save Profile, and then you can view your profile right there. And that's what it looks like. All right, so let's go back to the dashboard. Other areas of the site you can look at are forms. So once you select the forms, they will show up on the forms page. Here we have the risk evaluations, the new policy forms, and the service forms. From here, you can copy the individual links. The annual personal risk evaluation, you can copy that link right there and then paste it into an email. You could also click on this hyperlink to view and preview that specific form. Okay? And then from there, we can also look at responses. Responses is where all the information that you receive from people who submit your forms will be stored. So, when someone submits a form, the data automatically is emailed through a notification directly to the user, but it is also sent right into your account, your RiskRevu account here, where you can view each one of the responses. Okay, so back to the dashboard. The last thing on this quick overview is the group dashboard. The group dashboard is only viewable to the administrator. And here, the administrator is able to see how many responses were received that month for their whole team. If they are on our agency plan, they are limited to 100 responses. If they're on our enterprise plan, they are unlimited responses. And just a note, for people who are looking to do marketing campaigns with this software, the enterprise plan is recommended because it's quite possible that you'll receive more than 100 responses from a marketing campaign. Total responses since registration, number of seats used, and then here are all the users within that account. It shows how many per month responses and since account inception. You can also add a new member by clicking this button here. Okay, so back to the dashboard. Now, let's just take a quick look at the profile. And while we're doing that, I want to give a quick tutorial about digital forms and why I love them and I use them every day in my business as an agent. But why I decided to build this business is number one, they're efficient. And the reason they're efficient is because these forms include conditional logic, which is very rare in the industry unless someone has built them themselves. So the conditional logic allows someone to click on a button and then a subsequent question will appear. And it enables the client to not have to answer questions that they don't need to answer in the process. So it makes the form filling out process very efficient. And you'll see conditional logic as we go through this demonstration. The forms are designed to uncover cross-selling opportunities. So, when we're doing either a new package policy sale with a new prospect, or we're reviewing their policy through an annual personal risk evaluation, the form has all these questions in it that will help us identify additional opportunities for us to go after. The other thing that's really nice about forms in terms of efficiency is when we're on the phone or even in person with clients and prospects, there's something called question hesitancy. And this is basically, you're talking to the client and there's a question you want to ask, but you don't feel comfortable asking it. What's your net worth? That kind of thing. Or something that you think the client thinks you should know, and so you don't want to ask it again because you don't want to be embarrassed, that kind of thing. So the form doesn't have any of that. So when you send a form, it's going to ask all those questions of the client. And typically what I've found, and I've been using forms for over 5 years now, is you're going to get that information that you really want. And sometimes it's just confirming, information that you had that you needed confirmation of. So it's great at eliminating question hesitancy. It's also great at helping us remember questions that we forget to ask. So, when you're in the course of your day, you're flying 100 miles an hour and you get a new prospect on the phone that needs to get a homeowner's policy. Sometimes you forget to ask the question about the alarm system. The form doesn't forget to ask that. Also, if there's a type of business or a line of business that you may not be as comfortable with and you don't know the question to ask, maybe cyber insurance or watercraft insurance or flood insurance, the form has all the questions built into it, so you don't have to remember all the questions off the top of your head. And even if you have a checklist, sometimes the checklist doesn't have the questions that you need in it. Okay, so that's some of the ways that it can really help with efficiency. The other big way that it helps with efficiency is just by the nature of using a form instead of spending the time on the phone. So prospect calls in or emails in and says, I'd like to get a homeowner's policy from you. What's the normal process? Great, let's schedule a call. Then you have to do the back and forth of scheduling and so on and so forth. Instead of doing that, with the form, you can write right back to that prospect and say, great, thank you for reaching out to me to discuss your insurance. I welcome the opportunity. The first step in the process is for you to complete this form. Please click the link below to do that. Of course, if you prefer to talk to me, you can feel free to call me anytime. 9 times out of 10, they fill out the form. And that's why I'm so comfortable doing that in my business today, because people just prefer data transfer in this method. generally speaking. Some people would rather do it over the phone, and if that's the case, I use the form as the guide for that question, which also helps with efficiency. So, and at the same time, you're putting the data into a structured format so that it can be used for future automations, or it's just structured in your database. You can copy it and attach it to your agency management system and so on. Okay, so those are just a few quick things about efficiency. Let's jump into the new policy forms. Okay, the meat and potatoes of today. I want to go through as many of these as possible, and we're just going to do a quick run through of the form and what the intended use is. The aircraft form. So if you're selling an aircraft policy to a client, this is the form that you send them. It has all the questions in here, radio buttons to answer certain questions, how is the aircraft used, so on and so forth, all the way down to the bottom with coverage limit options and so on. They can upload files and they can enter information. How did they hear about us? Agency website. When they're done, they're ready to submit the form, they hit yes, the submit button comes up, they hit the submit button, and they are done. If, again, save and continue, if you want to pre-populate these forms, you can hit the save and continue button, and that will give you a link on a subsequent screen right here that you can then copy and paste into an email that has all that saved information into it. I recommend that you send that email to yourself at the end of that process so you have it filed. All right, back to the forms. Aircraft and air pilot questionnaire, these are for new aircraft forms. Aircraft policies. Automobile insurance new form. This is for a new auto policy. Okay, so here it collects driver's information, home address, vehicle information. It can collect up to, I believe it's 8 vehicles. Vehicle number 2, it collects the VIN number, you can do deductible options, so on and so forth, a third vehicle, so on and so forth. And then additional driver information. If there's an SR22, they can upload copies of their deck page, submit. Okay. Next one, business cyber liability. Business cyber liability, it collects all the information about the business that you need to get a cyber liability quote. This is for new business cyber liability insurance. And again, thinking about that risk management focus, there are a lot of questions here on this, but when you're attempting to get a cyber liability policy for a large business or medium-sized business even, this is very helpful. Business owner's insurance form. So this is a fairly quick and straightforward business owner's insurance form. So for a client that is you're looking to cross-sell and you want to get their business insurance, this asks some of the most important questions that are needed to really get a basic understanding of their business. The ownership, the EIN number, their website, sales, gross sales, equipment costs, any claims, any employees, so on and so forth. And there is that conditional logic built in there. If they have employees, let's hear about the employees. If they don't, we don't need it. Any company vehicles, great. Tell us about the company vehicles. Okay. That is a great one for cross-selling too. You know, if you identify there's a client that has a business you'd like to go after, it's a simple email saying, hey, we'd like to write your business. Click this quick form to allow us to get you a quote. Collector car insurance form. This form is quite extensive as far as collector cars is concerned. So it asks all the questions typically that you need to share with an underwriter about a collector car. It allows the person to upload a picture of the vehicle and also do a second collector car and tell you about their regular use vehicles. There's some supplemental questions, additional driver information, and done. Most of our forms take about 3 to 7 minutes to complete, depending on the situation. The condo co-op form, this is you know, a very commonly used form within our community, just with the, you know, the amount of purchases happening with condos and co-ops, so on. So here they can tell you about themselves, anybody else listed on the quote, are they purchasing it? Yes, what's the purchase price? Are they renovating it? So again, some of these questions are, you know, question hesitancy. Sometimes you don't ask about the renovations or forget to. This form will make sure that you do, and clients will complete that and enter that information. Will there be a mortgage? Is there a trust? Is there an alarm system? what's the square footage, the year built, any information about the additions and alterations you can share, so on and so forth. Flood insurance. So that's a great one. That's all for new condo and co-op policies. The farm package policy, this is great for people who sell farm insurance. It has 4 types of farms in here that when selected, there's conditional logic. It asks about the farmhouse, the farm buildings, farm machinery, valuable articles, farm vehicles. So for someone who's not familiar with farm either, and they have an opportunity to write a farm, this form will collect all the necessary, not all the, but a lot of the necessary information to get started on that quoting process. Group excess. So there's 2 group excess. So there's a product called Group Personal Excess. And so we built these forms at one of our users' request because they do a renewal of their group excess policies every year and they wanted to make it more efficient. And within that process, there are two specific forms that need to be completed: the employer practices liability and the high limit request form. So that's what these two forms are. They use this in a form email to all the participants in that program, whereby if someone wants to get EPL or a higher limit, they just click the link, fill out the form, and the information is sent directly to the agent. So it streamlines that renewal process for group excess policies. Group health insurance form, this is for group health insurance plans. Then there's a health insurance one underneath that. This is for individual health insurance. Gather some of the information needed for an individual health insurance policy. And then we have a high hazard flood insurance form. So this is specifically for homeowners insurance, and it is designed to collect information that is needed to quote a flood policy for a home that's located in a higher risk zone. So it asks, more specific questions like, what's the basement look like? What's the foundation? Where's the property kept at this location? Does it have flood vents? Is there an elevation certificate? Can you upload a copy of the elevation certificate? Are you planning any renovations? So this is a good form to send to folks maybe in a flood zone that you want to just get more information about. If they're, it could be a good one to send out as a marketing campaign to folks that are in a high hazard flood zone. And one of the things I want to mention is that we have users all across the country. And so we are getting feedback from our users, sometimes from California or Texas or Florida or Seattle, saying, in our local area, this specific question needs to be asked. Can you add it to the form? The answer is in 99% of the cases, yes. And what we do is we just do an internal review of that question. And then if it's approved, we'll just add it right into the form along with the necessary conditional logic. Here's a homeowners insurance California plan, California form. And this is basically the same as the homeowners comprehensive form, but it does have the added questions specifically for California. Wildfire and earthquake specific questions. Is there a combustible deck? Is there exterior sprinkler system? Does the home have ember resistant venting? Is the home a shelter in place community? So on and so forth. So that is one that can be used specifically for California. Home insurance basic form. This is a very basic homeowners insurance form. If you have a situation where you want to collect just the bare minimum to start the quoting process, then this is a good form. The comprehensive form is a comprehensive form for homeowners insurance. So example is a prospect calls in, wants a quote on home insurance. This form can be sent to them. And it gets pretty deep as far as the questioning, purchasing, purchase price, date of closing, renovations, what's your previous address for the credit scoring, is there a mortgage, escrowing, trust, all the risk mitigation features, square footage, so on and so forth. So this is a great form. And what type of heating system does it have? Gas. If it's oil, where is the tank located? What type of foundation? What are the other structures? Is there an attached garage? So it gives you plenty of replacement cost information that you can use to generate a very adequate replacement cost estimate. All right. Individual life insurance form, and so on. Okay, so I want to just recognize the time, and we've gotten through many of the forms. I want to just scroll through. The package forms are really powerful, and these are some of our most popular. I'll touch on those real quick. These enable you to get information from multiple lines of business in one form. So rather than sending a link for a homeowner's form, an auto form, and an umbrella form, you just send them a package form and they can select the sections that they want to complete. So you deselect the ones that you don't want and you fill out the ones that you do. All right, and then they can do that all in one form. Go to the bottom. Are you ready to submit? Yes, I'm ready to submit. Hit the submit button. There's 3 package forms. That was the one that I just showed you. The second one is multiple homes. You can do up to 3 homes on the multiple homes one. And then on the expanded form, this one includes collector car and watercraft and an extra home. So for the client who has that full account with some toys. Renter's insurance form is great because you can make that process of placing renter's insurance very simple. Instead of doing a phone call, you just send the client a link. And they love it because it's quick. This is great, the residential construction form. I love this for clients who are undergoing a renovation or doing a new construction project because it collects information about that's needed to underwrite the situation. General project information, if it's a new house, a guest house, a barn, pool, so on and so forth. Any structures demolished, what's the project schedule, who are the interested parties, what's the general contractor information. This form is incredibly helpful as far as getting those risks written as fast as possible. There's a surety bond form, a travel insurance form. For those of you who write travel insurance, and the valuable articles insurance form in the boat. So these 2 are great. I'll talk about them more in a second. Okay, so those are the forms. And as I said, we're building new forms all the time. If there's a user who has a form they want built, we do build those for them, custom to their requirements. And the pricing is $100 base price. And then depending on the complexity, they can go up from there. As an example, our business risk and evaluation was $150. So you can take a look at that. All right, so that's that. The last thing I want to talk about here is marketing campaigns, okay? So the thought there is you can create, you start with a list. You pull a list out of your agency management system that is home with no valuable articles, or home with no flood, home with no auto. You develop an email that is put into that your email marketing software, whether it's MailChimp or Active Campaigns or Constant Contact, and you develop the content to educate the client about the need for that type of coverage. Let's take valuable articles, for example. You can get a portfolio credit. It's important to have this coverage because your homeowner's policy has limited coverage for theft. So, and then at the bottom, if you'd like a quote, please click the link below to fill out a quick form. Of course, if you'd like to call us, please feel free to call us as well. But again, you're giving them that quick option to click a link and fill out a form that takes them a couple of minutes, and then they can get a quote delivered by your team very quickly. You can do this for valuable articles, flood, home, auto, equipment breakdown, cyber insurance, wind, earthquake, boat, RV, so on and so forth. So tons of different strategies you can do for cross-selling and upselling clients and making them better protected. Okay, and so I do want to share just real quick, the annual personal risk evaluation is one of the questions that was posed at the beginning of the session, and this can be found under our risk evaluations. And I love this form because, you know, when a client emails or calls and says, I want to do a review, and my philosophy there is that's wonderful. I want to do a review with you, but I want to make it more than just about rate. I want to make it about what is your need, what has updated or changed in your life that we need to be aware of, that we need to calculate into the new proposals if we're doing new proposals and quotes. And so my response then is, great, I'm going to start doing my internal review, but at the same time, can you do me a favor and complete this quick annual risk evaluation, because it's going to give me some updated information that's going to help me either A, find better ways to save you money, or B, make you better covered. And so I've done that on an individual basis. I recommend doing it on a mass basis too, to all renewals 60 days ahead of the renewal date. And I've found, in my experience, I've gotten anywhere from 10 to 30% response rates just by sending the email. So, and I've found cross-selling opportunities have arisen and so on. So it's a very powerful way to engage with your clients, contact them, touch base with them, and they love it. Not everybody's going to do it, but some will. And so that's another way to do that. So, and on that note, I do want to leave some time for questions. So I am going to go back to the dashboard, and I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm just going to open it up for questions and see if there are any questions at this time. Okay, does the package form collect basic or comprehensive home information? Good question, thank you. The package form, in my opinion, collects comprehensive information about the home. So when I send any one of those package forms, I am confident that I'm going to get enough information to quote that full account. I will say this, the package form expanded form is more detailed than either one of the other two. And so in certain situations, especially when there are toys involved, I will use that form. Or if there's a situation where I feel a need to collect the maximum amount of information, I will use the expanded form. But my go-to is the personal package form, the first one. Okay, and yes, with respect to developing like a flood form, a flood evaluation form. So we do already have the flood evaluation form, but perhaps the question that you had, Peter, was a different form needs to be created that's more specific to the use case that you're looking to do. And if that's the case, happy to do it. We work with some wholesalers that are actually using us to renew their excess flood policies. And we built an excess flood form, which you may want to take a look at, and because it's basically a form that helps an agent and the wholesaler identify what the previous situation was, what the new quote's going to look like, where the gaps are, and what additional quotes would be needed, and what changes took place that will affect that excess flood. So, you know, maybe that's a different conversation that you and I can have. Great. Any other questions before we end the call? Okay, great. So I do want to thank everybody for joining the call. I know you guys are all are very busy these days, and I hope you stay that way. Just a quick note on pricing and the product. We have 3 plans. One is an individual plan, is $29 a month. The second is the agency plan for up to 10 users, which is $99 a month. And the third is our enterprise plan, which is for up to 50 users a month and unlimited responses, which is $249 a month. If you have any specific questions for me, feel free to email us at info@riskrevu.com. And if you'd like to set up an individual demo of the software for your agency, please do the same. Please email us at info@riskrevu.com. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. This was great. Hope you have a great weekend, and talk to you soon. Take care.